It's Tehachapod time. Maya Acosta, joined by Greg Garrett and Corey Costello today. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you. Yeah.
Thanks.
And we have a special guest here with us today to talk all about the groundbreaking new technology of Hydrostor. We have Kurt Hildebrand. Welcome, Kurt.
Great. Nice to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Of course. So this is such a cool energy company and industry that is kind of burgeoning out in the Mojave area. I am obviously not an expert in this area at all, but can you tell us kind of at face value, at 1,000 feet away, what is your company all about?
That was going to be my first question. What does Hydrostor do? Right? So let's start with that.
Yeah.
Well, we are a long duration energy storage solution provider. What we do is we develop projects, very large mechanical batteries. We store off-peak energy when the wind's blowing and the load is not there, or the sun's shining and the load is not meeting the supply. So we store that off-peak power for the hours of the day when it's most needed. As California goes to more and more intermittent renewable energy sources on the grid, those are not as dispatchable as we're used to. You can't turn them on if the wind's not blowing or the sun's not shining. So as we go towards 100% renewable energy as a state, we need to be able to store that energy efficiently and in quantity sufficient to have a reliable grid. To date, lithium-ion batteries have been installed around the state on a relatively small scale to store that off-peak energy. We've come up with a technology that we've been working on for over a decade now, advanced compressed air energy storage. And our niche is a longer duration battery. We have at least 8 hours of storage capacity. Our Willow Rock project down north of Rosamond will store 500 megawatts of electricity for 8 hours. It's the largest energy storage project being advanced in North America. And we're real excited to be bringing it here to Kern County.
And so it's not the typical battery that you think, a car battery or electric car battery. It's a battery that uses technology underground. So when you say battery, you're talking about compressed air, you're talking about water. So you capture the energy when the wind's blowing, when the sun is shining, and then you use a technology you've created an underground battery technique, right? How does that work?
We've taken the best aspects of two older technologies, traditional compressed air energy storage, where you take large compressors, you compress air, and you store it. Traditionally, that's been in salt domes where large underground caverns exist underground. The issue with traditional compressed air energy storage is once you expand that air to generate electricity, you need to reheat it or it will freeze into solid chunks. And that doesn't get along well with high-speed rotating equipment. So natural gas has been used to reheat that air traditionally. What we've done is we've patented a technology where we can extract and store the waste heat when we're compressing a lot of air that generates a lot of waste heat. We store that in the form of hot water.
Oh, wow.
And then
That's nifty.
we reuse that heat when we expand the air in the generation process, and we eliminate the need for natural gas and emissions. The other technology is pumped hydro. That we've taken the best aspects of. Pumped hydro, you'll have two reservoirs, one higher than the other. You pump water up at night typically, store it, and then during the day you flow it downhill and generate electricity. That works very well, very efficient, but it takes a lot of water and a lot of ground, a lot of space, a lot of land.
Projects that are very common, like Eastern Sierras, that sort of thing, where they have terrain and water to work with.
Exactly, and they also typically occupy hundreds or thousands of acres. What we've been able to do is compress the density of our energy production and storage. In our project, the Willow Rock facility will be on under 100 acres, 88 acres. We will be constructing purpose-built caverns down in the granite bedrock 2,050 feet below our surface. We'll have a volume that will excavate in the granite of on the order of 1 million cubic yards of material will be removed from that cavern. That sounds like a big number. It is. It's a football field by a football field tall by a football field wide by a football field deep. So it's a cubic 100-yard block is the equivalent volume that we'll be excavating. We fill that cavern with water, and that is a discharged battery. When we go to charge the battery, we'll operate large air compressors on the surface, compress ambient air, slowly inject that down into the cavern. That high pressure air will displace the water in the cavern back up to the surface very slowly. This is a process that takes about 13 hours. Once the cavern is full of air, that water that was in the cavern is slowly displaced up to a surface reservoir, and we have a charged battery. So once we go to discharge and generate electricity, we'll turn that system around, slowly flow the air back up to the surface. The water acts as a hydrostatic piston, if you will, maintaining a constant pressure on the air. In over 8 hours, we'll discharge that air to the surface, generate electricity, reuse that waste heat, and we have 8 hours of 500 megawatts of generation.
What an amazing! I mean, it's so simple, but obviously it's not, right? You have to. So you chose East Kern because of the renewables, but also you had to find the right spot for the geology, right? You can't use water and air and dirt.
Sand.
It's got to be, it's got to be, a solid sort of rock that works with you to help you create that piston energy system, right?
We look for very low permeability, very low porosity bedrock, typically granite in this part of the world. That's not uncommon to find. We expect that approximately half the land area of the Earth would be suitable for our applications. So it's not overly difficult to find, but nonetheless, you never know when you go underground what's down there till you drill.
Till you drill. So you did a lot of probing and testing and found the right spot, and happened to be right beside Pacific Steel, which is another company that is breaking ground here in the East Kern. So we're really excited about that. But you talked about 8 hours of energy storage. So that's 500 megawatts or 4,000 megawatt hours.
Mm-hmm.
And so so do you use 8 hours of that same megawatts and then deliver it back? Is it a 1-for-1, or how do you lose some of those, the power going in to generate the plant to do the work later on? How is that? Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. I was thinking we might need to edit something, but I guess not.
Greg, we call it round trip efficiency.
Okay, there you go. I'm not an engineer, so
RTE. Our round trip efficiency.
You've got to lose something, I would think, right?
Our round trip efficiency is about 60%.
Okay, that's a high number.
And so for every megawatt we take off the grid to compress the air and run all our facilities, we get about 0.6 megawatt hours back out.
Yeah, and I know that transmission is a problem. So whenever there's more power being produced that SCE can't deliver, you can actually take that power and use it for your plant and then produce that power later on at night. So there's a little nifty thing there too also, right?
There's a lot of inefficiencies built into our system. Right,
but you're going to smooth that system, right?
There are certain renewable energy technologies that need to run. And when the load's not there, historically, we've been selling that power out of state, sometimes at a negative cost.
Right.
We're paying folks in Arizona elsewhere to take our excess power.
Yeah.
That doesn't make any sense.
So we're talking about transmission optimization so that you can help our power companies and the state CPUC, that we can all just have a better, more reliable, maybe more efficient and affordable power.
When wind turbines here are curtailed due to lack of load, those same wind turbines can generate, and we can use their power to store air and energy.
Yeah, that's really awesome.
The fascinating part about this project is the fact that Yeah, you had a problem, which was sometimes there's too much power in East Kern, too much renewable energy being produced. And of course, there was that one solution you mentioned earlier, it's lithium batteries, but it's hard to mass produce those to the scale you would need. Lithium's a very difficult mineral to find, mine. It's kind of a dirty process in a lot of cases. A lot of it's not here in the U.S. It's elsewhere. It's outside the country. You have to import lithium. It's very expensive. So the cool part about this is you all figured out how to make a battery basically about what's already in the earth and not have to produce a massive, football field size battery field.
It's really what attracted me to the company over 5 years ago was the simplicity of it. There's a lot of great ideas to store energy out there. Most of them are complicated. Many of them require new technologies to be developed or applied. We are using off-the-shelf compressors, off-the-shelf turbo expanders, generators, heat exchangers. We're applying them in different ways, but we're not relying on any new technology to get us in production.
And you talked about your efficiency being about 65%, but do you see that in the future as you get going and operating and technology improves, that number could go up? I mean, you could be 70%, 75% as this thing develops.
We're currently at 60%. We hope to get closer to 70. There are points of diminishing returns.
Sure.
We could make it higher, but the cost to do so doesn't really pencil out. So we're working. This is our flagship project in North America, 500 megawatt, 8-hour facility. We have not built one of this size to date. So we're going to learn a lot in the process going along, but we do expect to make improvements.
Well, when we're talking about the 60%, it's really 60% more of nothing.
Yeah, zero.
Because
if
you're generating energy via wind turbine, it's curtailed, then
and you're losing
it's
money
just
on
completely lost, right?
There are hours when that is indeed the case, and other hours where it's a very low cost.
Right.
And the most volatile commodity on Earth is electricity. Until recently, you couldn't store it in quantities, so you either use it or lose it instantly. We now have a capacity to shrink the off-peak and on-peak cost differential by being able to store energy in batteries and facilities like ours, and that will bring down the cost to ratepayers by having more storage capacity online.
We were talking about batteries earlier and, the technology and the cost and, all the different things that are required to produce a battery. And I know SCE and other companies have been working on battery storage in that kind of category, but your category is really environmentally friendly, way more so, and it's replacing fossil fuel generation requirements, right? And so metric tons of something, what are you going to, like carbon dioxide, you're going to be removing a lot of carbon dioxide that would have normally been produced in that world. Your technology, your plant, is really environmentally friendly.
It is. We don't have any greenhouse gas emissions from our operation. Typically, if a 500 megawatt gas-fired plant were built, a similar size facility, we'd be talking about hundreds of tons of nitrous oxides, NOx per year, and other pollutants. So that's a rough comparison against a fossil fuel plant.
I know that I went to your website and it talks, the Willow Rock project talks about removing 28 million metric tons of carbon dioxide, or the equivalent to 120,000 cars per year for 50 years off the road. Those are big numbers.
Yeah, this is a very significant project. It's a needle mover. A lot of battery installations around California are typically 100, 200, 300 megawatts for 2 to 4 hour energy storage capacity. They're getting larger. They're still in the infancy of learning how to get to utility scale. There's been some safety issues and fire issues. We support all of the above in terms of technologies and new projects. As a state, we need more of all of the above. And in terms of the long duration sector, again, we're an 8-hour facility. We believe that that needs to be expanded too. There's currently a 1,000 megawatt mandate for procurement in California by the load serving entities, the Southern California Edisons and PG&Es of the world. We do have a 200 megawatt offtake contract currently, and we're actively marketing additional capacity from the facility. The state definitely needs additional storage capacity of all shapes, sizes,
I think this
and flavors.
project is going to be one of many to come, and I know the city of Tehachapi has been very supportive for what it's worth. But the county of Kern and the state of California, let's talk about how that process worked out for you working with those officials.
Yeah, the lead jurisdictional permitting agency for our project is the California Energy Commission. We're currently in the application for certification process for new large thermal power plants. And we filed our formal application with them last July. It's moving forward. We expect a preliminary staff assessment in middle of this month. That's equivalent to a draft EIR. There will be subsequent staff reports and then a final decision we are targeting in November of this year. We'll be looking to go into construction very shortly thereafter.
That's amazing. That's great that everybody has been supporting it to that level. And I know the Department of Energy actually gave you a loan guarantee for about $1.7 billion. Can we talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, we've been working closely with the Department of Energy for a number of years now. And our technology, our project is a glove fit for their programs to advance new technologies that are ready for market. And in January, we did receive a Department of Energy loan guarantee for $1.76 billion, B, and that will cover the debt side of the requirement for the project. And we're very excited. They're supportive of our project and been great to work with.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And what about numbers of employees for construction and then operation? How is that going to pan out, do you believe?
We do have a very significant construction timeframe and need for the project, given that we have basically a very large industrial facility on the surface and simultaneously underground. So our construction cycle will be about 4.5 years. We'll have an average workforce of about 250 workers over that period of time, peak workforce of about 700. And these will be family wage union jobs during the construction. During operations and maintenance, we expect about 40 full-time employees inside the fence and a lot of associated knock-on effect positive economics as well.
That's great.
Excellent. What other Hydrostor as a corporation? I know you guys have projects worldwide. What other sort of things are out there? What other kind of storage projects or projects in general are you guys involved with?
We have a sister project in Broken Hill, Australia, that we just received final permits on last week. And it's a similar facility, somewhat smaller, but it's located at an existing mine. And it will be going into construction later this year. We're also advancing development projects fairly early in the cycle in Canada, in Europe, elsewhere here in California. Hope to be on a podcast again real soon talking about future projects here.
The invitation's always open. It's a great interview. I'm learning so much about how this technology works.
We've been getting it wrong for a long time. We thought we got it the first couple of times.
Right, but I'm
mysterious, but it's not.
I always have this caveat when I'm finished telling somebody, like, I think I'm just about right, but we'll learn more.
I simplified it to you pump hot air down the ground and electricity comes out. That was kind of what I came up with at one point.
Yeah.
I like to explain to people it's water, rock, and air and gravity. It sounds mysterious because it's underground and everything, but it's just air and water alternating turns in the cavern.
But you're using Mother Nature to assist the technology to produce the electricity. And like you said a moment ago, electricity is the essence. You got to have power, you got to have water. There's certain things you have to have, no matter where you live on this globe. And if you don't have electricity, you're not really going to get anywhere.
Yeah, and you mentioned water, Greg. One of the really neat stories about our technology is on the water side. Our name's Hydrostor. We do store water, but we actually generate water too. As I mentioned, the air that we use, or the water that we use in our cavern and reservoir, is not consumed. It just simply goes up and down. When we compress ambient air, we actually extract the relative humidity in the air, and we have a surplus of fresh water at the end of the year, even accounting for evaporation and other losses.
So you're going to correct the drought.
I wish.
Corey, we should put a pipeline from Hydrostor to Tehachapi. So how much are we talking? Is it where we can go get a grant from the Department of Energy to put a pipe up and over the Tehachapi Mountains?
It depends on the rainfall and ambient conditions. Out here, it's pretty dry, obviously, but we expect to have 40 to 60 acre feet of excess fresh water a year. So it's tangible.
So when you say let's talk later. But let's talk about that for a second. Is there a market for that water in and around your area? Because I know back in the day, they used to grow a lot of alfalfa and different things in the Antelope Valley, and they don't really do that anymore. Do you have a market for that, or are you going to just put it in holding ponds? How's it going to work?
We will find beneficial use. That's not a lot of water at the end of the day, quite honestly.
No, it's not. I mean, you can't spend that much money to get rid of 40 acre feet of water. That's for sure. But it's measurable.
We are interconnecting into the main AVEC Antelope Valley East Kern water line, 36-inch line.
Good.
So we haven't currently designed a flow return. But we will make sure that water will be put to beneficial use.
That's really interesting.
Oh, it's good to know that too, because when you talk about where your project's at, out there between Mojave and Rosamond Desert, people hear water. Well, what are you going to do? You're going to use so much water to put this, but the fact that you're actually creating it is awesome, because I think that just helps explain the sustainability of the project, because the technology is sort of creating its own water to be used for that pumping.
Well, I know Edwards Air Force Base is just kind of over the horizon slightly from you. And, I know they're always looking for technologies with fresh water and wastewater. We've been working with their commanders and such over the years on improving all of their infrastructure so that it meets the current goals of the DoD and, the state of California, those sorts of things. So who knows?
Yeah.
We've had discussions over there.
Yeah.
And we'll continue to do so on ways we can work together.
Right. That's awesome to hear. You've got a lot of things I can tell your mind is spinning. And everything we're bringing up, you've already thought of. So that's pretty cool. Yeah.
Well, I'm excited about the potential for, and you sort of mentioned it earlier, but that landscape and that geology in that area, obviously very acceptable to technology like this. What the future holds once Hydrostor and Willow Rock is up and running and successful. What else comes down the line that's similar, or maybe it's an expansion. So I could really see this being sort of the catalyst for more investment in our region for energy storage projects like this.
Yeah, there's a lot of opportunity. California typically leads the way nationally in terms of energy and other advancements. The marketplace in California does facilitate for long duration contracting. Other states, New York, Arizona, there's some other states that are keeping an eye on California and slowly following in our footsteps. With the advent of data centers and AI, the demand for more electricity and more reliable electricity is only going to grow, and it's going to grow like we have not seen in our lifetimes. One of the most constant uses of any commodity has been electricity over the last 4 or 5 decades. It's been very slow, very steady growth, maybe up or down a couple % a year. we're now looking at a lot of forecasts really have a hockey stick for the need for new electricity sources. We're retiring a lot of old plants as we speak. Diablo Canyon's been brought back just because we need capacity. Right. And as we add more intermittent solar and wind, you just need to be able to store that capacity or that energy when you need it.
Right.
So we're just a small solution, but we're going to need more across the board.
I can tell you're from the north because you used the
hockey stick.
The hockey stick.
I caught that.
Yeah, right. Did you get that?
Yeah.
I have another question for you. I'm sure you've thought about this, but what about Willow Rock or Hydrostor in a much smaller package plant? These days, transmission is a big deal, right? In and out, where you produce it, where you deliver it, those sorts of things. But what about, packaged microgrids where you design and build a small Hydrostor project in a community, maybe beside Tehachapi cement or somebody that needs more power than the power company can provide? Are you looking at that maybe? Is it reasonable to shrink it down, and is it cost effective?
Well, two answers to that, Greg. In terms of microgrids, we are a fantastic solution under certain
on a bigger
scenarios.
scale, but I'm talking about like much smaller scale, like a couple megawatts at most. Is that?
Yeah, our technology, we become price competitive at 300, 400, 500 megawatts of capacity. Anything smaller than that, it's typically cheaper to go with batteries or some other technology. Sure. That being said, in terms of microgrids, our Australia facility, Silver City, is actually a microgrid. Instead of building new transmission into this fairly remote load center city in Australia, it was deemed cheaper to put a facility like ours, long duration energy storage, out in this remote area and serve as a microgrid, as opposed to building a new long high voltage transmission line at great cost. So in terms of microgrids, we can provide those sorts of solutions. In terms of smaller capacity, under 250, 300 megawatts, we really don't compete that well with other alternative technologies. Right. The larger we get, the more price competitive we are.
Yeah. But I could see what your point earlier about the power usage of AI and data centers, where you have a situation where there's 5-6 data centers in a spot and your technology is used with renewables around it to power those facilities, something like that, at that large scale of 500 megawatts.
Yeah, to provide that reliability is vital for those sorts of facilities, and we can certainly do that on a long duration.
But the stars have to align. You have to have the transmission in and out. You have to have the need. You have to have the finance. There's so many moving parts. I'm sure that your day is crazy. You're going from podcast to talking Department of Energy to who knows what.
This is the best part of his day right now.
I know. There's no question about it, right? He's got a big old smile.
And I had a pretty good lunch too, Corey.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
This is really interesting. Thank you for being here.
It's my pleasure, and we're very excited to be bringing this new technology, our flagship project, to Kern County. Very pleased with the support that we've received locally, and
I know Tehachapi is going to benefit just by the economic benefit, right? It's just over the hill, and you talk about the numbers of construction employees and the full-time employees and just building the plant. I guarantee you somebody's going to have to go to Home Depot and buy something at some point,
absolutely.
right? But really, we offer in Tehachapi, our role in economic development is really just quality of life. We want people to know that we're here and that you can live here, or you can visit, or you can invest in our town. But it's safe with our police department. It's really tidy and clean with our public works department. We communicate with Maya and Key and others. And, we are recreate, it's a nice place to visit or live. And that's the role that we play. And so we just really appreciate the partnership.
And I can see this project too being, as I look at you look at the future, and whether it's yourself and then your neighbors, Pacific Steel Group, when you're looking at, career technical education for young people, to imagine now they have this opportunity to work at a place like Hydrostor with everything that's happening there. Again, Pacific Steel and some of these other sort of really advanced manufacturing energy style jobs that are very, they're very technical.
It's
and
the
it's
most
a great
modern
career.
technology.
Yeah, it's super modern technology and modern manufacturing. And so it's a great opportunity in the future as kids want to grow up, but then they more likely stay here. That's always been Kern County's big concern with their economic development efforts. We like to do the same as well. It's like you want people to, a lot of folks in Tehachapi grow up here, they leave, they come back, some never come back. But now to kind of have that whole life cycle where you could stay here and have a great career and a really cool job, that's good for the future as we look at that next generation
Well, and
workforce.
Corey, we have Saracosa Community College building a college in downtown Tehachapi.
Yeah.
That doesn't happen very often, right? When's the last time you heard somebody building a college? And they're building a college in the city of Tehachapi. And part of what you provide, maybe you can get together with Saracosa.
We've been in close communication
Perfect.
with
There
the
you go. There's
community
another meeting that you
colleges,
had, I'm
Cal
sure,
State
before you got here. Yeah. So the technology and getting young men and women, educated in that world so they can come work for you and know what they're going to do or how to do it before they're on the payroll.
Yes, like I mentioned, we've been in close communication with
That's perfect.
the advanced education resources here in the county, and very impressed by the opportunities that they provide.
Yeah, Saracosa was really keen on that, what we're just talking about now, getting the young men and women, in the business before they're actually, on the payroll. Yeah. So, yeah, they're all about it. It's a great great educational environment. Yeah. Maya, Corey and I have hijacked this.
I know
Mostly
whenever
great,
I have
but
you two on the
mostly me.
podcast, I'm just moderating in case things go off the rails.
Yeah, you'll have to, do time out.
She's the smooth open and close.
Oh, yeah.
That's my role here today. I'm just taking it all in, learning all about this.
Did you have any questions, Maya?
Or
did we?
You guys
okay.
just
Maya
covered
takes
them
this
all.
information, and then when she hangs out with her friends on the weekend, she's like the most popular person in the room. They're like, she has all the answers.
I wonder
This
if
is true.
she's giving us any credit
No.
on the weekends.
And I wouldn't expect her to. I don't want her to. Like, this is how you. That's how
Well,
you
I'm
should
going
roll.
to give Kurt all the credit because you have educated me
Yeah.
and the listeners alike, I'm sure of it.
Yeah,
So thank you.
it's just another exciting project, and now we always talk Kern County as a whole, feeding the world, powering the world, and now defending the world with everything that's happening with Naval Air Weapons Station China Lake, Edwards Air Force Base, NASA at the Flight Research Center, but then also to throw in that, hey, now we're building a good chunk of the world with Pacific Steel, and we're going to make sure we keep that power going and powering the world with Hydrostor, and that's that's in East Kern alone. That's not in the entire county. It's amazing.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
We're very blessed. What have we missed? What would you like to add to the conversation? Anything?
One aspect that's really neat about our technology too, and for folks like Edwards Air Force Base and other longer duration needs in industry, one aspect of our technology, for us to go from 8 hours of storage to 16 hours of storage, all we need to do is double the cavern space underground. And that is relatively low cost. You don't have to add anything on the surface. So if we were at a future date or a future project needing a 24-hour resource or a 1 week resource, really all we need to do is excavate more cavern space. So our project right now is an 8-hour facility. That's what it would be designed and built to be. In terms of future needs, the incremental cost of us adding duration to our storage is very modest, and that's a real neat aspect as this technology, as the industry evolves. For batteries, you just need to keep stacking more batteries on top of each other, and those costs just add up linearly. But for us to add more duration to our storage facility, it's relatively a modest cost. So for folks like Air Force bases, they're looking at multi-week needs, and our technology is well suited to meet those long duration needs as well.
I'm sure that when we have the ribbon cutting in a couple of years, you're going to already be in that planning stage to double or triple the plant. And I think about you. I flashed on something just now when you were talking. This is almost a national security issue also, because you're safely storing energy underground. And that to me sounds like something that matters a lot for the security of the United States.
I would tend to agree with that. Batteries are on the surface. We will have surface facilities as well. But overall, I think we do.
You play a role. You're
need
part of that solution. A lot of different solutions.
We need a lot of different technologies, and we will be a cornerstone technology in that mix.
Yeah, I'm super excited about this podcast, Maya. It's great. Great job, by the way.
Thank you. Well, good stuff. Any closing thoughts, Corey, Greg, Kurt?
No, I think, again, it's just a fantastic project. Love the investment in East Kern, the impact it's going to have in Tehachapi. We know a lot of those folks are going to live here, stay here, that sort of thing. And so these are all great. This is why we support projects outside of the city limits when it comes to big scale projects, because we know we will have, they will want to do life here. And so that's what we're here to provide.
Just to leverage off that point, Corey, I've developed a lot of gas-fired power plants in California over my years, and some very contentious ones, virtually all highly opposed. It's who wants a power plant in their backyard. I do want to salute the citizenry of Kern County. We have been embraced with this project, virtually no opposition. The community has been fantastic to work with, and it's a wonderful place to do business.
No, thank you very much. Yeah, we know a good thing when we see it, and we're here to provide for all of the citizens of the state and country. So,
and we appreciate hosting you. And I know your team comes in, when they come in from Canada and that sort of thing, they usually meet here in Tehachapi. So, love the fact that we're hosting basically international business travelers for this project, and I'm sure that'll continue.
Well, we have great hotels, great restaurants, and great places to meet. So we're always willing to host. That's for sure.
Outstanding.
Yeah, and everybody, you guys all have my cell phone number, so call me anytime. Right? We want to.
What are you doing for dinner?
Yeah.
Well, wonderful. This is an awesome partnership that we have with Hydrostor, and like you said, Kurt, our East Kern communities are just embracing the technology and the industry. So it's really just great to see. And I feel so much more smarter now after this.
Your friends are going to be so impressed.
I know.
Your
and
friends
everybody
this week are going to be
listening.
so
This
impressed.
might be an award-winning production right here, the last 30 minutes. Who knows?
You never
Maya
know.
knows more about compressed air energy storage than anybody else I hang out with.
Me too now.
Well, great stuff. Kurt, thanks so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Yeah, and Corey, Greg, thanks for leading this conversation.
Sure.
For anybody listening, if you have any questions or comments on this podcast or anything happening here locally, be sure to email us media@tehachapicityhall.com, and we will get that addressed to the right place. And as always, thanks so much for listening. We hope to get you back here next time on Tehachapod.